In the media lately, you might have heard people talking about something called broadband social tariffs. But what are social tariffs? How do they work? How do you access them? And are you eligible for one? In this video, we've explained everything you need to know about broadband social tariffs, so you can find out if you're able to save hundreds of pounds a year on broadband and how to go about doing this. But before we begin, thanks to 3 for sponsoring this video. Their 5G Hub home broadband product allows you to get online with fast download speeds for a very low monthly cost, similar to what you'd pay for a broadband social tariff, except anyone can buy one of their broadband deals, as long as you get 3 4G or 5G signal at your address. Click the link in the description to come to the 3 website and put in your postcode on their broadband coverage checker to see if you can get 3 4G or 5G home broadband at your address. So what are social tariffs? Social tariffs are special, discounted broadband deals for those who'd struggle to afford a regular broadband package. They normally come with slower download speeds than most other broadband plans, but they still offer plenty of bandwidth for most people and have much cheaper monthly costs than what you can normally access. So let's look at Virgin Media's social tariff as an example. If you're eligible, you can either get a 15 megabit per second plan for £12.50 a month or 54 megabits per second for £20 a month. And there's also this extra option if you want a TV box. With Virgin Media's regular plans, you'd have to pay at least £23 a month, probably normally £25 a month, for their M125 deal. And the price of this increases each year by about 4%, not to mention you have to lock in for an 18-month contract. Their social tariffs have a flexible 30-day rolling contract and start at about half price if you don't mind a 15 megabit download speed. As another example, Vodafone also has a social tariff, allowing you to get their Fibre 2 plan with a 73 megabit download speed and no mid-contract price rises for £20 a month. Instead of the £24 a month this would normally cost you. On the social tariff, the contract is also flexible and you don't have to lock in for 24 months like you normally do with Vodafone broadband. So who can get a social tariff? The exact terms and conditions will depend on the provider, but in general, you're eligible for one of these deals if you get one of these common benefits payments. For example, universal credit, job seekers allowance, pension credit, or income support. These are the most common ones, but you can see here on Vodafone, you're eligible if you're on personal independence payments, but that's not the case with BT Home Essentials, their social tariff. You have to be on one of these 5 different payments. If you're already in contract with a broadband provider, you can still get a social tariff. Normally, the best thing to do is call your provider and see if you can switch to a social tariff. Not all providers offer social tariffs. We'll discuss that a bit later, but most of the major providers do, or their parent companies do. For example, BT owns EE and PlusNet. EE and PlusNet don't have their own social tariffs, but BT does. So if you're an EE or PlusNet customer, you can call them and switch to BT Home Essentials. It's also worth mentioning, you'll need to keep proving your eligibility to continue using a social tariff. The provider will probably check in every year or so you can't just keep using the social tariff indefinitely if you come off the support payment you're on. So there's actually quite a few different providers that offer social tariffs. The number has gone up quite a lot recently, which has been good to see. What this means is, it's a good idea to shop around to see which provider you're eligible for offers the best social tariff. The best way to find all the social tariffs on the market at the moment is to come to this page on the Ofcom website, which we've linked in the description. They have a big list of all the social tariffs and their pricing, which is quite helpful because a lot of the providers, for some reason, don't give the cost of what the social tariff is on their social tariffs page. For example, this is the BT page, and it has nothing about pricing at all. But you can see what the options are here, and the speeds on offer, on the Ofcom website. So as you can see, many different providers offer these tariffs, including smaller, independent fibre providers, like Hyperoptic and Community Fibre. But what if you're with a broadband provider in contract, and they don't have a social tariff you can switch to, even though you can't afford your current broadband deal, and you're on one of the payments that would make you eligible for a social tariff with another provider? In this case, the best thing to do is call your provider and explain what's going on. Tell them about what's happened and explain that you're struggling to pay your broadband bill if that's what's going on. They might have special provisions in place to help you get out of the contract, allowing you to switch to a provider that offers a social tariff. So how do you go ahead and buy a social tariff? Most of the time, you'll need to do a bit of extra verification so the provider can check that you're eligible for their social tariff. With BT, you have to call them and they'll verify your eligibility. But with Vodafone, you have to register online first, then they'll check your eligibility, and finally, they'll call you and get you set up. And with Virgin Media, they push you to begin the process on their live chat. So as you can see, the process is a bit more involved compared to just going and buying a broadband deal, but most of the time, you'll need to call the provider and complete a verification before you can buy a social tariff. But the best place to start is this page on the Ofcom website, because here you can click through to the social tariffs page on each provider's website and learn about the process of signing up with that provider. But what if you're not eligible for a social tariff and you still want to save as much money on broadband as possible? The first thing to do is figure out how much bandwidth you really need, because a lot of people pay for ultra-fast speeds when they don't really need them. To do this, come to our bandwidth needs calculator on our website, which we've linked in the description. Scroll down and put in some details about how you use the internet and how many people are online at home, and the calculator will give you a rough idea of what bandwidth you need. So in this example, with 4 people online at home, doing a decent number of different internet activities, you still only really need about 70 megabits per second, or maybe a bit more. Chances are, unless you have 3 or 4 people online at home all the time, or you're a really heavy internet user, most 70 to 100 megabit plans will offer enough speed for your needs. So once you've figured out what bandwidth you need, the next step is to look at the cheapest providers on the market. Not all broadband providers are created equal. Some are a lot more cheaper than others, on a pretty consistent basis. For example, with the 3 5G hub, you can get online for just £19 a month, with average speeds of 150 megabits per second, sometimes quite a bit higher than this from our testing, which is actually cheaper than many of these social tariffs cost. For example, BT Home Essentials costs £1 extra per month, but only comes with a 36 megabit per second download speed. The main benefit of the social tariff here is, you have to lock in for a 24-month contract with 3 to get this price, otherwise you have to pay £28 per month, which is still pretty cheap, but not as cheap as most of these social tariffs. Another cheap provider worth looking at is Vodafone. Their regular plans start from just £24 a month, and it's a similar story with PlusNet, beginning at £26 a month for their 74 megabit per second deal. Just again, you have to lock in for 24 months with Vodafone or PlusNet, and you'll also face mid-contract price rises every year, which isn't the case with social tariffs. If you're not looking at social tariffs, click the links in the description to the 3 Vodafone and PlusNet websites to see which offers the cheapest deals when you're buying. And if you have any questions about broadband social tariffs, leave a comment below and we'll respond as soon as we can.